This episode of the Party Loaded podcast is proudly sponsored by Audible.com. Check out their awesome catalogue of audiobooks with over 180,000 titles to choose from. And be sure to grab a free audiobook on us and support the show by visiting audibletrial.com/endgame.
Let's party.
Hey, everybody. Welcome one and all to the Party Loaded podcast for Wednesday evening, the 27th of February. This, of course, is your weekly hit of everything great in the world of video games. I am one of your hosts, Luke Retallick, partying up tonight with Jam, I choose you. Hello.
Oh, hey.
Hey. Adrian, I choose you. Hello. Nope. All right, I won't continue with this. There's three hosts, there's three Pokeballs. Christian, I'll actually choose you as the starter, so congratulations.
No,
you get the pick.
You chosen Christian because you're the trainer. That's why.
Christian's got the hat. I think that probably gives you a slight edge.
I do. I have the whole cosplay.
Yeah, you're going to have to get a detective hat now. Is that how you're going to do that? Upgrade a little? Actually, I guess the Pokemon wears that. It's not the trainer. That's a whole other thing. It's getting a bit meta. Anyway, so yeah, easy lead into Detective Pikachu. I just want to dive straight into that and sort of say, hey, how was that trailer?
Pretty cool. So good.
Yeah.
Mewtwo made me mark out a little bit. I love that.
Yeah. I'm actually a little surprised that they spilled that as early as they did. That seems like something you would hold on to for a big reveal during the movie, but I don't know. I mean, it's not as bad as like the Terminator Genesis reveal or anything like that, but I don't know. Makes you wonder whether there's something else kind of big that they're holding on to, or whether that's
something else kind of big, or Mewtwo's not actually a big deal in it. Like that might be like just something on the news or something. Who knows? True. Yeah.
No, sounds good. But the overriding feeling I've had from watching that trailer and the previous one now is, when did Pokemon get so freaking scary? There are some freaky looking dudes.
I love it.
Yeah.
They're so creepy.
Ludicolo is awesome.
Yeah.
Terrifying. And
Apom
awesome.
that looks like friggin' Chucky from Child's Play? Holy crap.
Yeah, Apom's horrible.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Flareon looks cool.
I kind of like the vibe of these Pokemon movie trailers just because they're so fucking weird. Like when you think, oh, they're making a live action Pokemon movie, you can kind of think what that might look like in your head, and then you watch the trailer and you're like, what the fuck did they do to those Pokemon?
It reminds me of the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Yeah.
No,
they turned Goombas
we don't talk about that one.
Yeah, but the big difference between the two will be that they actually look like they're keeping relatively true to the Pokemon setting, as opposed to Mario. They just made their own weird things. So yeah, I don't know.
I heard the word hell. They didn't even say heck.
Pikachu says hell.
Wow.
Oh, really?
As long as they show humans eating Pokemon, I'll be happy because it's implied in almost every Pokemon game.
They're allowed one non-sexual use of the word fuck in a PG-13, so hopefully they get that in there.
I just want it to be Mr. Mime doing the mime with like the finger and the finger and thumb, like making the hole.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
There it is.
Perfect.
It's non-sexual, Luke.
No, okay, come on. He would make it sexual.
He doesn't
Mr. Mime
listen.
can make anything sexual. That's the way you go.
Oh my god. What is happening?
All right, anyway, moving on. So yeah, cool Pokemon stuff. It is in fact International Pokemon Day today. I don't know if you all knew. But the marketing machine is cranking up into top gear. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about that with later. Also on the show tonight, we're going to be chatting a bit of motorbike action, bit more Anthem, some fun Zelda stuff, and we've got ahead a really interesting topic on some gaming reality checks, which Mr. Adrian's going to be leading for us. So, but before that, I'm going to throw to Jam first, because Jam, you got to play something that we saw last year and that you were very enamored by, and you finally got to write it out.
Very.
So what's going on?
I'm so happy. I'm so happy. For anyone who's ever liked a Trials game, Trials Rising is the shit. It is so good.
It is the most jam game that ever jammed.
Explain.
Huh?
Explain. I don't know what it is.
Explain. Oh, I will explain. So basically, I played. Sorry, I appear to have started losing my voice as soon as I started talking. I played 2 games ago. I first played Trials on Trials Evolution. It's a motorcycle platformer, and they call it like 2.5D because you've got no agency over the depth. So even if the track curls, into the background and around, the camera shifts and you automatically follow it. You control the motorbike by accelerating or decelerating or leaning in order to get the wheels up and over the little obstacles and stuff. It's just giant obstacle courses. And it is so much fun. I was mad keen on it when I got my hands on it for a little bit at PAX, especially when I saw there's a new mode, co-op mode with a tandem bike. So basically there's 2 players contesting the thrust and the lean of the one bike, which looks insane. I tried it for 20 seconds with a friend I didn't know very well, and we immediately gave each other the shits. So
I love you doing game, but I would never fucking play that mode with you.
No, we'd murder each other.
Yeah.
Slowly.
Yeah.
But the core gameplay is you start on easy levels, so mostly they're about speed and making jumps with the initial basic bike, which doesn't go too fast, isn't super maneuverable. And when you clear those easy levels, you unlock the next bike, which has a lot more thrust. And so you've got to be a little more particular about how high you take some jumps because of obstacles and things. And then you get to the expert levels where you get a really, really maneuverable bike that's good with a lot of finesse, but the levels get insane. You are bouncing on your back wheel from short slope to short slope over things. It's just nuts. You have to watch some gameplay to understand. But this game, the last one wasn't received very well. I didn't end up picking it up. My brother, who's a bigger nerd than me about these games, didn't like it, which put me right off. They tried to go all themey with like a futuristic vibe to it, and it didn't work. This one is so good. It's back to its roots. It's fun. It's brilliant. So far, I've hit the medium difficulty levels, and I'm loving it. And that was just in one sitting. I'm finding the menus a bit annoying. It's not designed very well. They're a bit, I don't know, all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And unboxing loot boxes. They've got loot boxes in for vanity stuff at the moment.
Oh.
It's boring. It takes time. You forget to do it. And then when you get around to it, you've got this backlog, and half the shit is like duplicates or stickers that you're not going to ever use. But occasionally you get a cool thing. My helmet has a shark fin on it now. So that's kind of neat.
That's all right.
That'll make you better in the water at least.
Yeah, totes. But everything else, it does so extremely well. You race against ghosts in the single-player campaign, and these ghosts appear to be Ubisoft team members because they have like a smattering of degrees of difficulty, well, themselves, and one of your goals is usually to beat 1, 2, or more of them, which is really cool. The level design is superb, what I've seen so far, and I haven't got to the hard ones yet. They're going to be insane, but I have it on good authority from my brother that they're excellent.
How many are there? There's
the
heaps, isn't there?
backdrops,
There's like
apparently 130-ish.
Whoa, okay.
That's what I heard. I haven't fact-checked that. The backdrops are great. The environments they've chucked these levels in, it's set all around the map, around the world. So you've got, famous monuments and locations and everything. And the music, which is something I always loved from Trials Evolution, it made you feel like a badass no matter how many times you were hitting reset to try and perfect a track. The song would be consistent in the background. It wouldn't reset or hitch or anything. And same deal goes, they've made some excellent music choices, which apparently get even better. My brother was raving today. He hit the final level, and apparently it's just Dan Bull doing one of his epic raps, which is a theme song of the game, as you're riding this enormous, some kind of marathon track. And he said it's his favorite ever.
Dan Bull's amazing. I love that dude's stuff. Yeah.
So good. So funny. Music on point. Superb. The skill tests are back in the game. So one of the things that is so great about it is when you get maybe a little sick of racing or whatever, they do these things where you actually have to use your bike or leave your bike and do something stupid on a level. And the only one I've accessed so far has you bail out off your bike after taking a jump, and you basically fly through the air over what looks like sort of a ski slope full of barrels, and you've got to control your ragdoll body to hit a barrel to make it explode to project you further so that you can get the best distance that you can. My brother said he played one where you had to eject your bike to intercept a basketball and dunk it. Like,
that's awesome.
I don't even remember the ones I used to play years ago, but they were all stupid funny and hilarious fun to mix up the gameplay.
And those levels, are they like unique control features that don't exist elsewhere in the game? They're just for that level specifically, or?
Yeah, normally if you bail out of your bike in single player, that's it.
Right.
You can't even... So one thing I forgot, I always used to play multiplayer with my brother and sister, and in multiplayer, if you bail out at the end, you can project your body, like ragdoll it in front of the bike at a faster speed. So if you did it across the finish line, it could get you that nose in front to win the game. So it was very tactical. I jumped on this for the first time last night, nearly finished my first race, like clear ahead of the ghosts, and I bloody bailed out at the finish line, and the counter kept going, and my body's lying there, and I'm going, oh, it doesn't count. So pro tip, don't do that. But one of the biggest, coolest, most amazing things that I'm pretty sure someone mentioned to me, but I completely forgot about, is Fat Shady's in the game. Fat Shady is an Aussie bloke who was just a Trials fan. He used to post in Kotaku AU all the time since I started reading it. He made his own tutorials on how to get good at Trials, like years ago, and eventually came to the attention of the dev team, and he got invited over there. And now he's in the game. They have tutorials to help you perfect different bikes, different little tricks with them. And he's narrating it and talking about it, and there's like a cartoon him on screen. I just think that's super awesome.
That's amazing.
I was so stunned when I saw it. So yeah, I'm loving it so far. Things I'm looking forward to, expert levels, and then they go beyond into some stupid, ridiculous ninja difficulty. I have no idea. I don't think I'll ever get that good. Multiplayer, I still haven't tried. Player-made content has always been really awesome, if a bit janky in previous versions. So I'm thinking on this one it might be something extraordinary to behold. I'm so keen. As soon as I can catch up with my brother, we are going to destroy any affection we have for one another by giving it a go. And apparently another really super neat thing, there are leaderboards. You can see how your friends do on a particular level or how the world's doing, and you can actually click on them and watch their ghost for a particular level.
Oh, that's awesome. So you can actually pick up some techniques and stuff from them. You
can see their button pressing. You can tell when they hit accelerate and when they let it go. You can see how they leaned. Superb.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, yeah.
So,
loving it.
Question for you, because you said like player-made content. Is there an actual level editor or level creator? Or?
Yep.
There is. Okay.
Yep.
Nice.
I remember in Trials Evolution, it was really janky, but they still had some cool ones. There was a whole series that was Lord of the Rings themed.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, really cool fun.
Nice. There you go. Motorbike stunt platformer. Anything that
Trials
appeals
Rising.
to you guys?
Get some.
Yeah. Look, I'll admit, I'm not usually a racing game kind of guy, but there's a lot more about that game that appeals to me than a typical racing game, I think. But I don't know. I think the appeal for me would be playing with friends, and there's no fucking way I'm ever going to play with you, Jen. You just destroy me. So, yeah.
Nah, mate, it's fun. You just do the easy levels where it's all about speed and luck.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. So while we've got you talking, if you've got breath left in you, you want to do a quick follow-up on your Anthem stuff from last week? How's that going?
She's struggling.
Yep.
But yep. I haven't played a huge amount more, but I'm still loving it. I'm still not too far into the storyline because every time I jump on, one of you lot is on who's further behind me and we end up doing your missions. And I'm enjoying it. It's good fun. I'm still appreciating the story mission where I'm at. It's getting juicy and interesting. I've just finished Fortress of Dawn. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, good times. I'll be jumping back into that for sure.
Nice. So despite the times when we jumped on and I was behind you in story, I think that's probably flipped quite a bit now because I am almost certain that I'm on the very final mission right now. So around level 27, I think, out of 30. I'd have to check, but I'm pretty sure I'm up around there. So definitely the point where... Yeah, definitely at the point where I've experienced probably enough of the game to be pretty settled on my thoughts and that kind of thing. So, yeah, my Anthem review in brief. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Anthem is a bad game. I really, really think Anthem is a terribly bad game. So, it's not to say that I haven't enjoyed it to an extent, but I cannot with a straight face say that this is a good game by any stretch because it has so many fucking problems, and it's not just the pre-day one patch stuff that a lot of people were raving about. I think that it's actually had some real missteps in terms of its design choices that make it not a good experience at all. So,
Yay!
Yeah, it doesn't bring me any pleasure to say that. And like you guys know me, I usually err on the side of positive for almost every game that I play in a way that makes it really difficult to be critical of something. But I thought long and hard about this, and I just cannot recommend it to anyone. I really can't. It's if I was to sum it up in comparison to similar stuff that BioWare in particular have done, I think that since Mass Effect Andromeda, because there's definitely some similarities in the way that they approach their games in general, I think that compared to Andromeda, for all of its problems that it had, for all of its, the dead-faced sort of officer lady and, the other complaints on release and that kind of stuff, I think the Anthem is a big backslide from Andromeda. I really do. So it's just not got the BioWare spark that even that game had. So I'll summarize quickly because I don't want to sort of add too much to the piece that you guys already did really well last week. But I think that post day one patch, which is supposed to have dealt with a lot of the issues around loading times and some of the interface and bits and pieces, I think that the screen loading times are still gross. I think the number of loading screens in general is just completely unacceptable. The interface sucks. Like there's very few parts of the interface that I actually think are intuitive or actually work ergonomically well. It just, especially when you're going into the mission and map loading screen, it just doesn't work for me at all. One of the things that really got me, and I was chatting briefly to Ollie about this the other night, and he didn't seem to think it was that big a problem, but it just strikes me as absolutely lazy, is the fact that there are shopkeepers in the game, like there's two of them in particular, that at first you sort of think, oh, cool, they've got different characters and different personalities. And then you realize they're actually selling exactly the same thing. And not only that, they're actually located directly opposite each other. And then you realize that you actually have a shop menu in your main fucking menu that also sells the exact same thing. So there's no reason to actually go to a shopkeeper. I mean, why? As this seems ridiculous to me, why would you ever bother talk to a shopkeeper unless you're actually forced to, because there's dialogue sort of strings that you need to follow. So yeah, the characters for the most part I find very wooden and uninteresting. There's a few exceptions to that. Some of the main characters are actually, you can see there's a lot more effort put into them, and they are okay for the most part. Although there is one in particular, without saying anything that's too spoilery, has a massive change partway through the story, and I think that the change is entirely unearned, and it actually frustrated me a great deal. So, the Fort Tarsus stuff, it still feels bad when you're running around Fort Tarsus. Like you're basically doing a fetch quest involving conversational threads, and there's not a lot to it. Like a lot of the story stuff that you sort of get from conversing with different people is just, it's very boilerplate. It's not deep at all. It doesn't sort of explore the world. Far too much of the world sort of story is in readable content, like, random posts and bits of lore that you unlock by finding objects scattered around the place as opposed to actually delivered to you in a true narrative sense. So, I mean, all that sort of stuff, which is something that BioWare traditionally has been really strong at, the world building stuff, and everything in this game just feels lazy. I just can't think of it any other way. But as far as what the core of the game is, like the actual flying around and shooting and that sort of stuff, I think it's fun. I think that the general gameplay loop of the flying and shooting and using your sort of abilities and stuff is a good time for the most part. But my issues with it at large are that it's extremely repetitive. I think that the lack of variety in enemy types actually really does get to you after a while, because the main factions involved, you've got humanoid Dominion troops, again, humanoid-ish Scar troops, which are kind of like these weird mutant insectoid sort of humans that as kind of scavengers. And then you've mostly got the native sort of fauna of the setting. And there's not a lot else besides that. And they don't have a huge amount of variety within each faction. Coupled with the fact that when you actually start exploring the world, like as beautiful as it is, the scenery is quite repetitive, because you're pretty much looking at lush jungle and scattered ruins and some tunnels with cool tech in them. And that's about it. Like there's no real other variety apart from that, and by the 10th, 11th, 12th mission, everything's looking very samey. So yeah, and like getting towards the end game, I can see already that there's just not going to be a lot of content there, and that really saddens me, because they needed to come at this a lot stronger than they have. So yeah, there's definitely some fun in there. Jam, I can totally understand where you were coming from last week in terms of you really enjoying the the core gameplay because I think that certain people will just gravitate towards that more than others. But I really struggled with this game and it didn't feel good. So yeah, that's kind of my take on it. So yeah, Adrian, I agreed with you last week for the most part.
Yay.
Shock horror. It just took me a while to experience it to actually realize that. But I don't know. It's a shame. It's a real shame.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys want to add anything? I feel like I've just ranted for like a good 5 minutes. I feel bad.
No, you kind of covered the same shit Adrian did last week.
Yeah. Man.
It's all been said.
I know.
I think it's
each their own.
Yeah. I think it just kind of makes me sad, like for the state of I guess not. That's a big statement for the state of video games, but I mean, it kind of melds into the topic that we're hitting later on tonight about reality checks. And when did it get to the point where a AAA game couldn't be trusted? When like it could be released and you couldn't trust that it was going to be a good time? Like you would expect for a company like BioWare or someone with that much money behind it to, at the bare minimum, provide a good experience, especially with how long it took and the amount of money going into it. It just makes me kind of more cynical than I even already am about, believing that a game that looks too good to be true probably is. So,
So, I mean, the only other thing that I'd say in closing is that the thing that I've seen a few people say with regards to the game should be good once they add more content to it, I actually fear that it won't be. I think that some of the fundamental choices they've made around the design just can't be fixed with subsequent patches and content releases. I think that it's not just an issue of adding content to the game. I think that it's just not a good game to add to in the first place, so which is a shame. But I don't know. There were people out there that enjoy it, so.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Unless they're adding stuff that vastly changes the gameplay, it's a shame that it's stale right from the beginning. But yeah.
Anyway, all right, let's talk about some other fun stuff. So, Christian, you've not really gotten a chance to dive in yet. So tell us about some Zelda stuff, because I saw that on the list for you tonight.
So I think last week I might have mentioned I was thinking of playing Link's Awakening again because of the recently announced remake. And I have. I fired up my 3DS and I've been playing the Link's Awakening DX, which was the Game Boy Color update that they did. And man, the game's so fun. It's so charming and weird. And yeah, I'm up to the 3rd dungeon. And yeah, having a blast.
Nice.
Cool.
So you think you'll play it even like again one more time when the remake comes out without it impacting you?
Definitely, yeah. I actually think that playing, because it's not a terribly long game. Like you can probably finish it in under 10 hours.
Okay.
Or 10-ish hours. So I can play through it. I should play through it pretty quickly now. I'm kind of doing like one dungeon a night at the moment. And then it'll just be kind of more fresh in my brain when I replay it. And it's always fun to sort of see the differences. Like, oh, what have they changed here? What have they updated there? So I'll have it all fresh in my memory. And that'll actually like add to the experience for me. So
nice. Yeah, so after our topic last week on gaming blind spots, a couple of the ones that we mentioned, I noted that Matt has pulled out Fallout 1 and he's been streaming that during the week, which has been cool to see. So that's one of his that he's getting stuck into. And I have also pulled out one of mine, and I've been similar to you, Christian. I've been Zeldaing on the 3DS. So I've been cracking into Ocarina of Time. Yay. So the 3DS version of that. And yeah, my first hour with the game was not a positive one, I will admit. So I actually started.
Like, why?
It being kind of hard not to crack at first.
No, okay. It was. I told Jam about this before, and she had a good laugh. But I basically fucked up. So I started playing the game, and my first impression was, you know how in like a lot of Zelda games, like the Lost Forest is kind of like one of the end game areas because it does that weird thing with navigating where it's really hard to sort of find your way around because the landscape constantly shifts and that sort of thing. It's like a very tried and tested Zelda trope with that particular area.
Yes, but usually they'll do some clue to lead you away, like a gust of wind or something. But anyway,
they will.
But
so
you have to be smart enough to interpret that clue, Christian.
Yeah, shut the fuck up, Adrian. So in the opening area of Ocarina, of course, it links straight into that, and it was one of the only areas that wasn't blocked off when you start the game. And I thought, well, that must be the area you have to progress to go and find your starter sword. And I thought that was really weird. And I spent about an hour getting frustrated because I had no clues as to how to navigate around through there. And then I went back into the village, and then I realized there was an entire starter training area that I'd completely missed, and I felt like a bit of a dickhead. So, yeah.
I didn't even know you could go into the Lost Woods that early.
Apparently you can. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's one of those things where the game just trusts that you'll go in there and get turned around enough times that you realize you can't do it. But, I wasn't that clever, and I kind of thought that was the way I had to proceed and wasted a whole bunch of time. So I'm back on track now. The game's great. I'll talk more about it.
I think it's definitely like a symptom of it being like a 21-year-old game at its heart, where things just weren't as clearly signposted and handholdy sort of back then with a lot of things.
Well, the irony is that everything was literally signposted. I just fucking ignored the signposts. So
true.
Well, that's a good start.
No.
Yeah, shut up, Jan.
Luke?
Look, I buy the furniture at IKEA and think I can put it together without having to consult the instructions every step of the way. That is my personality type.
100% believe it.
Such
I
a
put
man,
together enough
Luke.
shelves that I know how it works. Come on. Yeah. Anyway.
I bet you don't stop and ask for directions either.
Fuck no. You got an Allen key. What else do you need? All right.
And one more thing before we move on to the news. I wanted to just do a quick update on my Assassin's Creed Odyssey progress. I'm like 45-ish hours in. I think I'm nearing the end.
Oh, wow.
But I wanted to like have a small gripe about one thing, which is the dialogue system. Because it's the first Assassin's Creed where you have like sort of Mass Effect style branching dialogue trees. They've been kind of grinding my gears a little bit with how inconsistent they are. And like there's so many instances where like I'll choose a line and then my character will just the next sentence or the next scene act completely opposite to how that first line was intended. So like there's an example of like a character that goes missing, like a child goes missing, and I chose a line that's like, oh, she'll be fine, she knows the way back. And then one sentence later my character is screaming going, I'm gonna look for her. I'm like, it's just really inconsistent. And like there's another one where a character dies and like I chose to say like, oh, he deserves to rot. And then the next scene, like the next sentence, my character's sad and putting coins on his eyes and going, for the ferryman. And like, it's just really jarring. And I think that like Ubisoft it's kind of their first big go at it, I think. Can't think of any other games that they would have had like their team would have had practice on for that kind of system. Rayman, yeah, those deep dialogue. Yeah. So I mean, kudos to them for trying, but
Definitely
I feel like the more directed single like linear story in like the previous games was more sort of tonally consistent, and I like it more at the moment. So
bit too much convergence on the conversational paths. They should have stepped it out a bit more, maybe.
Yeah, and there's one big thing in particular, like no spoilers, but there's like a really big character that you can choose to like kill or let go. But everybody acts like you killed him no matter what. And so, like, the next 20 hours in the game, whenever you talk to somebody, they're like, I hate you for what you did to this person. And I'm like, dude, I let them go. Like, what are you talking about? But they act like I've killed them. And it's just, it pisses me off a bit. But
sounds broken.
Game's still great. But
yeah, no, it's fair. I mean, like you say, it's their first foray into doing proper sort of dialogue, stuff like that. So that kind of thing improves with companies that tend to take that on as a new standard, I think. I mean, you could definitely see a big difference with early BioWare games to later ones. And then they've backtracked. So, yeah, maybe that's not a good example. So
I think Christian's summary on that topic is thanks, I hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Nice. All right, well, anyway, we will leave Jam now to go and get some rest. And we will kick on with some gaming news.
Now it's time to hear some gaming news. Time for some gaming news.
All right, so we're going to just very quickly open with something tonight that is going to very fast be redundant because by the time you listen to this, it would have happened. But it bears mentioning there is a big Nintendo Direct tonight. It fits in with the whole Pokemon Day theme. They have got a specific Pokemon-themed Direct, which is going to be going for 7 minutes. So for anyone listening, what we're basically about to do in like the next couple of sentences is predict what we think is going to happen, and then you can listen back to this and know whether we actually got it right or not. So I think, well, the Direct image has 3 Pokeballs in it. I think we're thinking it's going to be the Gen 8 game announcement on Switch. So
yeah, definitely. With that image being used, they've got to be revealing the starters for the new gen.
Yeah. Exactly. So I guess what really gets interesting here is what kind of game is it going to be, and is it going to be the traditional starter setup where they have the fire, grass, and water type, or something different?
Yes.
Everyone always goes, oh, they're going to change it this time. It's going to be like dark, psychic and whatever, but it never is. It's going to be fire, water, and grass again. Like,
yeah, there's a combination. I think that might have been it, Christian, or something like that, where there's a similar combination with 3 of the types that is just like fire, water, grass. I can't remember what it was. I think it's is it dark? I think it's dark psychic
fighting.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that might be it. Yeah. That might be.
But yeah, no, it'll be the same things again because that's what everyone's comfortable with. Yep. My only hope for it is that my hope is that it's got a better art style than Let's Go, Pikachu and Eevee, because those games, like, they remind me of the new Super Mario Brothers games where they're just like cleaner versions of everything of like what they need to be, but there's no like flavor to the art.
There's no embellishment.
There's no embellishment. So I imagine that they'll be using the same engine and it'll probably look very similar to the Let's Go games, but I want there to be a bit more artistic style in it.
Yeah.
I'm sure they would, yeah. I mean, they did well, I think, with Sun and Moon. I think that had some nice flavour to it and a different kind of art style. And was that the first one where they jumped from little chibi characters to like fully formed humans? All the humans kind of evolved and became like proper sized? Is that between...
I want to say it's that way they did as well. Yeah.
Did they not? I think that was stunted in X and Y. I have a feeling.
It's been
I think
a
they were still
change.
a little chibier in X and Y, but yeah, like I hope they keep that same sort of slightly more realistic proportion. It's still not realistic, but more than they used to be.
Yeah. What I'm hoping is that the fact that the Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee came out, it actually enables them to steer more away from the basic onboarding style Pokemon games and make this one a bit more for the hardcore fans. Because there's kind of like already a separate game for that new audience, and they can kind of really just go out this one and go ham on it. So
that's the running theory from the fans, and I'd love that to be true. But knowing Game Freak and Nintendo, it'll probably just be everything you expect from a new generation of Pokemon, but on the Switch. Which is still great. I'm still going to play the crap out of that, but I'm not expecting a huge like revolution.
Yeah, well, I'm going to make 4 very quick predictions. Prediction number 1 is that it is a Pokemon MMO in the style that you can actually encounter other players in the world and challenge them live, as opposed to just NPCs. So that's prediction number 1.
In the whole world or a set area?
It ties into my second prediction. So prediction 2 is more of an open world a la Breath of the Wild style. I would love to see that. So if those 2 happen, I would imagine they'd mesh together where you'd be able to just sort of run around in an open world style game and encounter people. But you're right, it could be in a particular area. I don't know. So I'd be happy with it either way. Prediction number 3 is I don't think they're going to introduce a new type of Pokemon to the game like they did with Fairy a few generations back. But I reckon they might do something crazy and have like a triple type or something like that. Something new. So, because I don't think they'll do like the Mega Evolutions or the Z Crystals again. They'll have a different spin, but it'll be something a little bit more grounded. And my 4th prediction is that it will be completely compatible with Pokemon Bank. So you'll be able to bring over your Pokemon from the DS games, is my prediction and hope. Yeah.
That's pretty much the only prediction I would also predict there. The other ones I'd love to come true. Maybe not the triple type thing, but like a Pokemon MMO or a full open world thing, like that'd be the dream, but yeah, we'll see.
Here's my prediction. It will be pretty much the same as every other Pokemon we've had before. There'll be minor tweaks. Everyone will love it, but it won't break the mold. That's my prediction.
That's pretty much what I predict too, but I think there will be a shared online space. It'll be similar to in Black and White, they had like the Dream World where you could actually like run around with another player on your friends list. It'll be like that, something like that, like a contained area. But it won't be the full game, open multiplayer. So
interesting. Just depends on how risk adverse they are, I think, is what it'll come down to. So
very.
Yeah.
Game Freak. Yeah.
That's true. I mean, the Let's Go games are probably the most risky I've seen from them, like almost ever. So, yeah, true.
And that was remaking Gen 1 again, so.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, which in a way, I guess it's tried and tested.
I know.
So, yeah. Okay,
most
maybe
beloved
not.
generation.
Yeah. All right, well, anyways, sort of straight on into more Pokemon stuff. Very quick one. Pokemon Go's had some updates recently. One of the more interesting ones being that they've finally put, I think it's the last Gen 2 Pokemon you can actually now catch in the game now, which is Smeargle.
He's Gen 3, isn't he?
2 or 3. I have a feeling it's 2.
It's going to be a Pokemon 3.
No, you could be right. I wouldn't bet my life on it. But Yeah, I know he's one that has sort of, he should have appeared by now with the way they've been introducing the generational sort of groups, but he hasn't, and people have been wondering what's happening. But the way they've done it is actually really cool. So they've introduced like an enhanced photo feature in the game, and the way that you have to catch Smeargle is because he's kind of like the artist Pokemon, is that he actually pops up and photobombs photos that you take in game, and when he appears in a photo that you've taken, then he appears next to you in the overworld. So you actually have to use the photo feature to actually trigger his appearance. Cool. I like that.
Yeah, I
like
lot. That.
Yeah,
I think it's cool.
Yeah. So
the funny thing is, I saw people on Twitter like as soon as that came out, being like, "I've taken 5,000 photos and he hasn't appeared." And it's like it's clearly on some sort of like timer system or something where like you get like one try a day or something to see if he's actually going to appear. You can't just like spam endless photos to make him appear.
Yeah. Sounds about right. But the other interesting thing coming after a long time of this never looking like a possibility, Niantic have actually are going to be introducing a way that you can change team. So the three core teams in the game, for a price. It'll be like a coin thing you have to pick up. Which you'll have to pay like the in-game currency for, which of course you can buy for real money. It will allow you, I think it's once a month, or there's like a timer on it. You'll be able to change team. So if you made like a bad team pick early on, once a year, it might be actually. It's like a significant lockout. So I mean, it's really a feature designed for people who felt that early on they made the wrong choice in team, or maybe they've discovered new groups of people playing that they want to sort of play with now instead of who maybe they were initially with, so they can change it up. But like something that was considered pretty much permanent before is now going to be malleable at a cost. So that's kind of interesting. So yeah. But a bit of Pokemon stuff on Pokemon Day. Makes sense.
Yay.
Yay. And it is Pokemon Day, of course, because it is the 20th anniversary of the original release of Red and Green in Japan today, like 27th of Feb. So that's pretty cool. And some more Nintendo news. So this week we said goodbye to Reggie Fils-Aimé from Nintendo of America. He was heading up Nintendo of America for the past like 15 years or so.
Yeah, I think technically it's April that he disappears. I know there's a set date.
Well,
yeah.
He said goodbye, and he's announced his retirement, and he put out a lovely like goodbye video thanking everybody and having some clips from his past exploits at Nintendo. And I thought it was actually quite touching. Reggie was one of, I think, the two big faces of Nintendo for a long time, he being Satoru Iwata being the other one who sadly passed away a number of years back. So I think like with Iwata gone and now Reggie leaving,
you got Miyamoto still, so.
You've got Miyamoto, but Miyamoto doesn't tend to like head up the presentations and the stage shows. They kind of wheel him out and get him to smile and wave, going, "Yeah, it's Miyamoto." Yeah. But he doesn't tend to sort of be main staging stuff like they did. So
true.
Yeah, a bit of shoes to fill there. But he's being replaced by Doug Bowser, which endless memes have been made about already.
Good.
Yeah.
I like how a lot of news articles, because they've got the editorial standard where, like, once they've introduced someone by name, they actually just use their surname from that point onwards. So everything I've been seeing about him is just like, Doug Bowser, and then everything after that is like, and Bowser did this, Bowser did that. I'm like, this is great.
And there was a photo floating around of Bowser, and then on the shelf behind him, there's a Mario and Luigi like plush toys that have been like tied up, like they're being taken prisoner, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, I really hope he just leans hard into it from this point onwards. He's got to, right? I
mean, if he has the charisma to pull it off, but he might just be a dried business suit with a funny name. Who knows?
Yeah, I hope not. Nintendo needs better than that for sure.
Oh yeah.
And
then even more Switch news or Nintendo news. We've got 3 Resident Evil games incoming. So that's Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 0, and what was the other one? It was Resident Evil.
Was it Code Veronica?
Remake? No, it was a remake of the first one.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's what piqued my interest because Adrian was talking about it last week. So that immediately, I thought, Adrian, you want to play that game? Maybe on the Switch could be an option. So
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. That's pretty cool. Padding out the Switch library even more with nice games.
I was saying to you guys yesterday that we went through this patch at the beginning of this year in January, where a lot of us were sort of wondering what the heck is Nintendo doing this year. It seems like they might have like a really basic year ahead if they don't have something surprising to announce soon, and then go from like a few weeks later and it's like, holy shit, Nintendo are going to have like the biggest year ever. This is just looking crazy. So yeah, I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be good. It'll be good. But other games in the meantime we can look to for other content releases. We've now got a 90-day roadmap for Anthem, which has been revealed. So stuff that is coming out for that game to keep people happy with filling some of the gaps in in-game content for sure. So they're going to have what's called a Cataclysm, which are kind of like, it seems like their raid sort of replacement. It's certainly going to be bigger than their strongholds that are currently in game, because the strongholds, while they seem like they should be raid level content, what they really are is more like a dungeon or a strike, if you want to use the Destiny comparison, like a more bulky sort of a single mission as opposed to like a large linked experience, which takes like a significant amount of time to finish. But they're going to have a whole bunch of stuff. So world events kicking off next week. April's going to have a big thing about enhancing interaction and competition with multiplayer features, more stuff heading up throughout the next sort of few months. So that's one thing. And speaking of roadmaps, we've also got a roadmap now finally revealed for Fallout 76. Remember that game? Yeah, I know you remember that game. No.
I think Bethesda's just thanking their lucky stars that another games as a service has come out and is taking all the flack instead of Fallout 76 now.
It's funny. Yeah. Like they're so comparable in a lot of ways in my eyes now. But yeah, it's really the same kind of thing. They're basically saying, over the next year, they've kind of plotted out as far as spring at least, and then some very vague stuff about summer and fall. So they have mentioned before there's going to be like a new game mode coming. There's going to be more vaults opening. They've got a whole bunch of stuff in there about new crafting methods, so you'll be able to do like brewing and distilling. And the one that actually interests me quite a bit is that they're going to add player vending to the game, and that looks like the way they're going to do it is you'll actually be able to build vending machines and put them at your base.
But why? What could you possibly want to buy from a Fallout 76 vending machine?
It'd be legendary weapons for sure. That'll be the one thing.
Ooh, legendary crap! Awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how much attention that game still gets, in the months to come. I don't know. I think that it's got its work cut out for it. So
both of these games make me think like you can spray perfume on a dog turd, but it's still shit. These roadmaps aren't going to do much.
I would agree, but there will be the diehard fans nonetheless. It very much feels reminiscent of the early No Man's Sky sort of narrative to me. So the question is, will they be able to do a No Man's Sky next and rise from the Phoenix at some point in the future with a significant content release that actually reinvents a big part of the game or not? Time will tell. So.
Yeah. Big difference between those games being No Man's Sky was like a tiny indie team doing their first big game, and these are like Bethesda and EA. So
absolutely, but that indie team did not give up. They bunkered down and they got shit done. So more credit to them for that.
So in other news, we've got another Overwatch hero that's dropped. So this kind of came out of nowhere. I don't know whether there was much of a lead up to it, but I caught it on my Twitter feed yesterday.
I think we're about
so the new character's name
was, I think.
Yeah. I mean, as far as content for Overwatch goes, the character is what keeps people coming back. So people love to see new characters. I'm guilty of that. The new character's name is Baptiste for short. His full name is Jean Baptiste. I've forgotten his last name, but it's got a three name. A Haitian character who is filling the support role. So I've had a little look at his gameplay and his backstory, and I'm kind of bored by it, to be honest. So the character is a classic bad guy turned good kind of scenario. So he used to work for the evil agency in the game called Talon. He's seen the light and has come over to the good side. So he plays as the combat medic, and his kind of character angle is, he could give you a healing pack or a bullet, which I think is just really cheesy and dumb. And they use that line in some of his character descriptions about the whole hook of his character is that he was like a rebel and he was a bad guy, but now he's a good guy, so he can heal you or he can shoot you. Isn't that interesting? And the answer is no, it's not very interesting. And after watching some of the gameplay, I don't find that too interesting either. So for those interested, he's got a primary fire, which is a burst rifle. He can shoot a healing grenade style out of the same rifle with the right click. He can do a little healing burst centered on him that goes outwards. He can put down probably his most interesting ability is you can put down a circular field that stops allies from dying while they're inside it. And it's on a short timer, so it just stops people from being killed. And then as soon as the zone goes down, they're back to being vulnerable. And his ultimate also is kind of meh. He just drops a square barrier. Oh, it's not a barrier, a square wall anywhere on the map. And if you shoot through the wall, it increases the damage you do. And if you get healed through the wall, it increases the healing. And that's kind of it. So his abilities look kind of uninteresting to me. I'm sure he'll be great for people that are still playing Overwatch, but as you can probably guess from my tone, I'm kind of not interested in Overwatch at the moment. But I mean, it's always nice to have some more support characters, and this kind of is. It does appeal to me in the sense that it's nice that there's a character where you can be the healer and still kind of contribute with a bit of damage. I mean, I know the other characters do that already, but for people like me who aren't very good at Overwatch, maybe it gives me a chance to shoot some stuff rather than just healing all the time.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, we all know it's about the cosplay options anyway, so that's what really
That's
is going
right.
to drive the character.
and like the source filmmaker project.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Actually, that's an interesting point. They didn't release any video with him, did they? Really, apart from in-game stuff, there was no sort of Pixar-style.
Don't worry, Luke. There'll be plenty of Patreon-funded 3D porn of him that's come. So, yeah.
There was like a motion comic origin story, Luke, but no Pixar CG thing.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
a bit more like what they did with Doomfist as opposed to what they've done with other ones.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Fair enough. Cool. All right, well, let's close the book on the news for tonight, and let's open it up in front of Mr. Chair here. So what are we talking about tonight, man? Let's let you lead us in.
Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever experienced a moment in time where you played a game or heard a piece of news from the game industry that just got your blood boiling, just got you real worked up, and you thought to yourself, hey, wait a minute, this is bullshit. That's kind of the theme of our topic tonight. So we're doing gaming reality checks. So this is a topic where I've asked my fellow podcasters to pick a topic that really gets them riled up and has elements of kind of the gaming industry or games developers kind of treating us not as well as we think we deserve to be treated. So I might kick off by giving you the example that I came up with. So the topic that I would like to discuss with you two lovely gents is called gacha games. So for those who are unfamiliar with the word gacha, it's actually taken from the word gachapon. Anyone familiar with the little shopping center machines where you put in a coin, you turn the crank, and a little ball comes out with a toy inside? This is a Japanese invention called gachapon. Originated in Japan, as far as I'm aware, which is also the basis of how Pokémon sort of was developed, because the monsters come out in little ball capsules. And the whole idea is that you put in a coin, you turn the crank, you get a random toy. So the reason gacha comes up in the games is used in the games industry is to kind of represent the random nature. So what it is now it's I must admit, I haven't seen it in its exact form that I'm going to be discussing too much in mainline console and PC games. It's mostly a mobile game mechanic from what I've seen. But the way gachapon basically works is it's most common in Japanese RPG games. A good example is, I think it's called Final Fantasy Exodus, is one of the most popular mobile games that use this model successfully.
And there's Final Fantasy Record Keeper as well, does the same thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a Transformers game, which I dipped into a little bit as well. There's even a Disney one, which pops up on my Facebook all the time. Surprise,
Fire
surprise.
Emblem Heroes, I think, does this as well.
Fire Emblem Heroes.
Yeah.
Grand Blue... Is it Grand Blue something? It's like the biggest game in Japan, and it's gacha, yeah.
Gotcha, yeah. So obviously there are many, many games, and the mobile market is flooded with them, obviously. But the way it basically works is it's kind of like a collection-based gaming system. So the game usually has elements of either an RPG or a real-time strategy, or those automatic fighters where your fighters kind of line up and just attack each other, and you occasionally have a little bit of input into their attacks, but mostly it's just sort of randomly generated, fighting. And then through that fighting, you unlock currency, you spend that currency in the game, etc., etc. But the main hook of gacha games is that each of the characters that you unlock, whether it's a Final Fantasy character or a Transformer character, is ranked. And these rankings, as far as I've seen most of the time, are done with stars. So as an example, I'm going to use the Transformers analogy because I'm a Transformers fan and I've played the Transformers game. It's called Earth Wars. So as an example, in Earth Wars, you start off with a handful of sort of lesser known Transformer characters that aren't quite popular. And then as you play through the game, you earn the sort of low level in-game currency, which is the one that you can either buy with real money or by ticking off objectives in the game. And using that currency, you can buy basically a loot box style item. And this item has a chance to drop a character that is a higher rank than the ones you already have. So for example, I might have a team that has a rank 3 Bumblebee, a rank 3 Optimus Prime, a rank 3 Ratchet, and then through purchasing one of these character I think they were called character shards in Earth Wars, I have a possible chance to earn a 4-star Bumblebee or a 4-star Ratchet or a 4-star character that I don't have at all. So one of the grinding things about this method is that you're actually earning characters that you already own. You're just earning a better version of that character. And so this whole system is sort of designed to keep you playing the game, to keep you engaged, and to give you a reason to be grinding, because these games are very grindy. So now the reason I bring it up in this reality check kind of topic is that I must admit that I did play Earth Wars, and I did spend a significant amount of money on Earth Wars. So it could be said that I'm just sort of griping because I got done in by it, and that could be true, but I think the element of these gacha games that really sort of gets me kind of worked up is the sort of blatant sort of exploitative nature of them. So for an example, in-game, to earn, the top tier character that is worth maybe 5 stars or 6 stars, it takes an obscene amount of grinding to get enough currency to get to that level. Like, I'm talking months and months and months of grinding to get a chance to earn that character. So it's not even a guarantee. So what it does is it encourages you to drop real money on one of these character packs to speed up the process and get access to that character sooner. Yeah. And it's sort of self-perpetuating because the whole point of the game is to collect these characters. If you're not collecting the characters, the gameplay itself is not very engaging. So I don't see what the point of the game is apart from to get the best characters you can. And I find it very predatory and very kind of gross. And after having been sort of suckered in by it myself, I kind of think about it as being a very dishonest and mean, sounds a bit dumb, but a kind of mean way to treat players of your game. And I just think to myself, this is something that obviously thousands, hundreds of thousands of people enjoy, and probably even many more of them sort of drop huge amounts of money on these microtransactions, and they're designed specifically to be exploitative, and that just gets me real pissed off. So a good example is the creators of Transformers Earth Wars, of whose name I can't remember. I remember them releasing a video that was taken at a training session where they openly discussed the ways that their game is constructed to promote people to make in-game purchases and to get them to, increase the likelihood of them making those purchases. And so I'm sure listeners might say there's this game where you don't need to do that, and it can be completely free. And I've seen models like that exist in games like Warframe, but this particular gacha model just really pisses me off. So I'm curious what you guys think about it as well.
So just to be clear, the thing that you're describing, I just wanted to sort of say my impression of why loot boxes in general are not the same is because you're talking about games that are built entirely around that mechanic being the central facet of the game, as opposed to like an add-on, which is what loot boxes are. Like, they kind of give you cosmetics or things to enhance your experience as opposed to being the crux of your experience. Would I be accurate in saying
exactly,
that?
Yeah, that's right. So a loot box system, like you might find in a game like Overwatch or not Anthem or Apex or even Fortnite, the majority of those items you can get are cosmetics. I don't recall ever being able to unlock a character or solid in-game content through those loot boxes.
Battlefront 2 did that.
Battlefront,
and it got much maligned for it.
Yeah, sure. So there you go. So and the difference being is that this gacha system, the rewards you earn through opening one of these packs is not just new content, it's replacing versions of content you already own that's just a little bit better. Yeah. So it's encouraging you to spend money to get versions of things you already have. So it's a clear sort of money grind treadmill, and it's just so quite obvious to me. And I have to question at which point we all just started, being spoon-fed this crap, and we're like, yes, thank you, please keep treating me like shit. I love that. This is kind of the vibe I'm getting at. So to answer your question, yes, Luke. Yeah.
I mean, I think that it is just the most boiled down, like, abusive relationship between the developer and the player, where it's just preying on psychological impulses to invest and to try. It's just like gambling. I mean, like, it's the same. Yep. It's the same kind of thing where, like, playing a game of poker, like, unless you're just doing it with mates, like, people who are like high rollers, they're not really having fun playing the poker. They're doing it because of the gambling impulse that they've got, where they want to hit that dopamine rush of getting a win and getting lots of cash. And it's just the same kind of thing, where the game itself is completely secondary to the dopamine rush of getting that 5-star. And they skin these games in like lovable things like Transformers, or there's tons of them that are just like anime waifu bait, where it's just get your 5-star because it's your waifu in a summer bikini or whatever. And like, that doesn't mean anything for the game, like you say. It's just a different JPEG on the character that you've already got. Maybe with some improved stats, but those stats don't do anything other than let you repeat content that you're already playing. Yeah. So it is just this like parasitic, like, money siphon of abusing people's impulses to want to open up shiny things, and it is disgusting.
Yeah. It really does feed into that sunk cost revenue model as well, where people who have spent a certain amount of money on the game feel compelled to not stop playing it because they feel like they'll lose the investment they've made. So
absolutely. Loot boxes are a mutation of it. Like, I think that if you looked at the trajectory of like gaming models, you would see that loot boxes evolved as like a sort of a Western inspired, like a gacha inspired Western version of gachapon, and I think that there is a lineage there, and it is somewhat better than a pure gachapon, but it's still icky, and I still don't like loot boxes, and even things like Hearthstone. I'm a Hearthstone fiend, but that's a similar kind of thing where you're busting open digital packs to get like legendary cards. And
on that, I've got a couple of thoughts, actually, and I'm glad you mentioned Hearthstone, because that kind of ties into one of them. So, like, I actually think on one hand, and I'm certainly not trying to make excuses for the format, because I agree with both of you. I think it's really gross. But on one hand, I think that it is an accepted standard for those style of games, largely because of the cultural sort of background that they have. Like, a lot of these, unless I'm massively off base, a lot of these sort of are derided from the Japanese sort of video game scene. Am I right? So that's kind of the genesis of
Asia is huge on it. Like China as well.
So I think that the general sort of accepted cultural norm for games in those areas, and this is probably represented at a like a physical level in a lot of their arcade equivalents as well, is that sort of stuff is so commonplace that people don't really think twice about it because of how long it's built up over time. You talk about a Western audience like getting their back up about the way that the Battlefront 2 loot box system included like items that actually benefited you in game as opposed to pure cosmetics. That's because it's much less of an ingrained standard in our world as it is in the Asian countries. So I think that, they can get away with a lot because it's been that way for a long time. But the other thing that I think is that it also really comes down to the mobile market too. And I think that it's an accepted standard in the mobile market for a couple of reasons. But one big one is because of the revenue model of the mobile market is partly broken by the fact that people just undervalue actual good gaming experiences on mobile. Like, people aren't willing to spend a lot of money on mobile games, despite the fact that they're happy to spend, US sort of $50, $60 on a PC game that's of a decent length. Yet they get their back up at spending, a few bucks on a mobile game that still could provide, hours and hours of fun. But because they're not willing to, because they see it as a lesser game because it's on a mobile device, then a lot of these game makers need to seek alternate revenue models to actually get the money coming in through the door. And the unfortunate consequence of that is some of these really predatory systems that at the end of the day, they actually kind of do what they need to do, which is to actually, make the money that these games aren't making from actually having a ticketed price in the first place. So I think it's shit, but I think that's part of the reason. Yeah.
So I agree. That's the sad thing.
I do have to say though that I think that's sounds a little bit like sort of putting some of the blame on the consumer when I feel like people do undervalue mobile games, but if the games on mobile were good enough that people wanted to buy them, people would buy them. So
agree.
I kind of think that it's kind of putting the cart before the horse sort of situation where if a game on mobile isn't good enough for people to buy, they're not going to buy it. And I don't think that's a fault of the consumer for not valuing that product.
No, well, the mobile market it's one of the biggest install bases, if not the biggest install base in the world when it comes to gaming platforms, and it is for that reason the most cutthroat competitive. So it's just a product of the flooded marketplace. Games prices get driven down to the point where you almost have to have a free game for people to get a look at it, compared to the competition. Because the quality is not evident until they've actually played it. And then as a result of that model, they need to seek other revenue sort of making sources within the games themselves. So, I'm not putting blame on anyone particular. I just think it's a shit situation. So, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify because I don't think to me, it's not a situation of gamers like who play console games looking at mobile and going, I don't want to pay for this. It's people who generally aren't gamers, like console gamers, that there's because there's so many. Everyone has a phone in their pocket. Not everyone has a console at home, and it's those people who aren't used to paying for games that creates that race to the bottom situation. But I don't think it's gamers going, we don't want to pay for games on mobile.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a question, and like this is a pure hypothetical because I don't know what the answer is. But let's take Hearthstone for an example. If we were to think of Hearthstone and say, okay, what if the card pack system didn't exist in Hearthstone, and instead you could buy all the cards that you wanted, just a one-off purchase. You can pick any card you want and just buy it from a store. Is there a reason why that doesn't exist as opposed to the card system, apart from just maximizing the amount of money the game makes? And if that is the case, if it is just to maximize the amount of money, is that to ensure the longevity of the game, or is that just to make a profit, as much profit as possible from the game? Could the model exist with just a direct store comparison, for example?
It's a really complicated question. Yeah, I don't think it could either. But I think
I don't think it could because
you go, Christian.
I was going to say, I think it's just about making more money. Like Blizzard and Activision know they can just make more money by having people buy blind packs than if you just pick them out of a store. Because Hearthstone's a sort of game where anyone who's playing it sort of semi-seriously will want to copy decks they've seen other people play or copy decks from online. So opening packs is just a means to an end. It's a means to, okay, I want to get all these cards so that I can create this kind of deck for a lot of people. So people just have to buy as many blind packs as they can until they've got the cards they want. Whereas if they could just buy them straight out, then it costs them less.
I actually don't entirely agree with that. I think that no, I think there's a big other thing at play that is pretty relevant. So when it comes to Hearthstone, what it's intentionally trying to do is to model a digital version of the paper card game collecting experience. And trying to capture as much of that feel as possible means that they need to have the blind purchase model because that exists in physical card games. Like you buy a physical pack of Magic cards. So
but that physical model exists to make max profit.
Oh, it
That's
does.
the reason it exists.
Totally agree with you. But the fact
there's also a huge thing there, which is a secondary market. So physical games have secondary markets.
I know.
You can buy those. You can buy them individually.
I completely agree with that. And I know that there's a disconnect there in terms of the physical market not existing with Hearthstone because it's not a tradable sort of resource. But the fact is that there are reasons why that exists in a paper card game, but people kind of forget that because of how long, over time that's become a thing. In a lot of players' minds, they're just like, how can we make this feel as much like a physical card game as possible? And one of those things is random draw on the cards that they crack out of packs. Like the whole pack cracking experience is a real source of fun for them. You know, even though in digital format it doesn't have quite the same reasons for existing as it does in paper format. I mean, obviously revenue models and, you know, driving, you know, sales quantities is a huge part of that. But over time, that again has become sort of morphed and mutated into, hey, this is one of the cool things about the game, and this is one of those big hits of dopamine. And if it doesn't exist in this digital version of the game, then it's not as good. So I agree that it's kind of like at its heart, it's not a good thing, but there is no like doubt in my mind that trying to stay true to the feeling of the physical product is part of the reason why it exists, and it's not just driven by like the digital revenue version of that. I think it's kind of it's all messed up together, so it's part of it. But the other thing is that I think that the collecting aspect of it has a lot of merit, and people really do enjoy the fact that they feel a little bit special by getting lucky and pulling out a card that not everybody instantly gets. If you can just buy the cards, like by selecting what you want and paying for them, then I know it's not a skill-based thing at all, but it takes the special nature out of it, and you no longer feel that you're kind of, you know, a bit unique in having a particular card that's rarer than another if everyone can just get hold of it. So I think there is that too. That's
the same kind of predatory psychological tricks that the gacha games are playing, though, because you're not earning that legendary card but in any way other than spending money. So someone who just throws more money at the game has more chance of getting that legendary card. So
yeah. Look, Christian, I don't disagree.
Yeah.
And I think as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think as well, like your valid points about, you know, it being part of it is staying true to, you know, the physical game of cracking open a card case. That may be the case, but if they could still maintain that without maximizing the exploitation of the player. So, for example, they could put contingencies in place where, like, you know, they could guarantee that every pack has this, you know, particular rarity card in it. I know that Hearthstone does have something like that in there. What is it like? Once you open a certain number of packs, you're guaranteed a particular
every
thing.
Card has at least a rare, and there's a pity timer, so you get a legendary at least every 40 packs, and
there you go.
And one in the first 10 packs for each new set.
Yeah, there you go. So, I mean, that number 40, like every 40 packs, is deliberately chosen so that it's, you know, just in the sweet spot, just enough so that people spend as much as possible, I imagine. You know, they could have made that, you know, every 10 packs you get, you know, the legendary card. Yeah. But instead, you know, it's all constructed to make as much profit as possible off the player. My question is, like, if those profits are necessary to maintain the longevity and the life of the game. If it is, then I can see it being justified. And if it's not and it's pure profit, then I guess we're entering more of a, you know, philosophical discussion about, you know, profit versus, you know, consumer and what is good and what is bad, which we don't have time for. Yeah, that's right.
I guess the point I'm making is that I think it's very important that they have tried as closely as possible in digital format to recreate the physical nature of predation. So
yeah.
Anyway, so that's the gacha topic. I mean, we strayed a bit into sort of loot boxes and that, but like Christian said, they are mutations and they're all sort of offshoots of the same thing. But I think we can all agree that it's one topic that I think people kind of take it on the chin and just go about their business and go, yeah, I'll pay for that. And I think the more we buy into that, the more predatory the whole industry becomes, and that's what really upsets me. So I just want to say, fuck gacha games. Yeah, that's my.
I'm super glad
that's my gaming reality check.
On mass, it seemed like about 12 months or so ago, people finally started waking up to it and started to push back. So it was good that happened around the time. Yeah.
So my final thought on that topic is I just want to, like, these games obviously exist on a spectrum of sorts, and they're not all created equal. And like Hearthstone is a much better way of doing it than like that Transformers game. And I think that over time we are seeing a refinement to, like, as people are rejecting the model in certain areas, we are seeing it refined to a more consumer friendly version. And I just hope that continues. And I hope we don't get complacent and let publishers like hit like a momentum where they're not having to improve it. I hope that it continues getting better.
Speaking from experience, it's like having a small child in your house that as they grow up, they push boundaries as often as they possibly can to find out exactly what the fuck they can get away with. So
sounds about right. So what we might do, I might shoot to you, Christian, and find out what your gaming reality check is.
Sure. So mine's maybe not going to be as sort of dire or visceral as that one, because that's something that gacha games is something that I truly hate. But mine is a bit of a wake up call when it comes to the way we consume games en masse. So basically, I think that the giant, like big marketing, so big marketing has locked our brains into this unsustainable like hype cycle of consuming new products.
Oh shit!
Just so that we've just so that we've got like we've consumed one product just so we can move on to the next thing, and we're left with like no breathing room and no appreciation for the things that have come before, because it's like we're always bombarded with presentations and trailers and announcements for big shiny new things, and like most of the big shiny new things are crap. And like just because a game is featured on an E3 stage doesn't mean that's going to be a good game. It's probably going to be a crap game. And there are so many games in the past that deserve our attention more than these newly announced games and these games that are coming out. So like if you take any halfway decent game from the last 10 years, remove it from history, and then release it again this year, and you get tons of people playing it, tons of people talking about it, and they'd be people who in this reality haven't actually played it. And I think that people are too focused on the big shiny new things, and there are so many games that they'd love if they just like looked back into the past and picked out games. I'm not saying go back like Atari shit. I'm saying get games from the last 10 years. Like, stop focusing on whatever the hype machine is forcing down your throat, and just breathe and play games and don't worry about the big shiny new things all the time. That's kind of my reality check.
I feel like you're speaking directly to someone here.
No, I'm not. Because I just see it everywhere. Like, I see so many games getting attention because they are coming out. They're new games, when like so many people who play that game would have a better time playing an older game. I don't know, like Anthem is a current example. Like,
I was just about to say that, yeah.
Yeah, people shouldn't be playing Anthem. They should be playing, I don't know, like Vanquish or something, Bayonetta, I don't know. Like, play a game that's been out for a while, but it's just so much fucking better than Anthem. Why play Anthem?
Yeah. I agree, and I was going to bring up Anthem as a perfect example, and it speaks to me of exactly what you're talking about. It's like, again, it vibes with me about the whole gacha thing, this whole kind of, take what you're given, take the medicine that we want to give you, and, buy the thing and eat the thing and take it and like it. And if you don't like it, we'll just ignore you and make another one and someone else will like it. I vibe with what you're getting at. I'm kind of getting socialist vibes tonight about, wanting to improve the quality of our sort of gaming collective consciousness. But look, I see what you're saying.
I'm a part of this. Like, I buy into it completely. Like, I love. Me too. We've got a Nintendo Direct coming up in 1 hour as of recording, and I'm hyped for that. Like, I'm a part of this machine, but sometimes I wish I could just break out of it a little bit.
I want to break free.
Yeah. I feel like I should respond to this.
Yes, you should.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a couple of things. I absolutely agree that there are games from an age long past that very much deserve a spotlight to be shone on them again, that are too quickly forgotten in favor of the new hotness. And I like to think that doing a show like this, we actually have a fantastic platform for starting to push some of those games into the limelight and talking about them again. Like, Christian, at the start of the show, you and I spoke about Zelda games that have been out for fucking forever and that we're now playing again. And, being able to pull that out and have a good chat about it, I think is a really wholesome and positive thing. And, we absolutely have a great way to do that. So, yeah. And we
I would have to say that those Zelda games have only been brought into your consciousness because of the new one that's being re-released and being spoon-fed to us.
Well, in
so you've gone back to play
case,
those
yes, but in my case with Ocarina, it was more about our topic last week, which wasn't...
I'll let you finish, Luke, but I've got a point to make about that, Adrian, but sorry, continue, Luke.
Yeah, cool. So, I mean, it can be brought on for different reasons, but I think that it's a decent example in general because of the way that we do the show. We do talk about a lot of old games that are sort of brought into our focus again for whatever reason. It's not always linked to new stuff. So that's one thing. But I think that when it comes to... new games coming out, and I'll use Anthem as an exact example of this. I think that personally, I find myself, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I find myself in a really weird position with this kind of thing because of the nature of the way I think about games now, largely because of the podcast and the way that we talk about games being different to someone who would just consume them outright and not have this added part of their hobby, if you like. I actually really enjoy the part of the hobby of video gaming that is going through a game with a critical eye and actually thinking about the positive and negative aspects of it as opposed to just mindlessly enjoying it. So despite the fact that I think that Anthem, for example, is a bad game, I really enjoyed the process of coming to that conclusion, if that makes sense. So
yeah, I actually completely agree.
Yeah.
And I feel that exact same way. It's a complete split mind thing for me where I want to have my cake and eat it too. I want to talk about the new thing and watch videos breaking down why the new thing is good or bad and talk about it on Twitter. But then I also just want to go back to a time when I would get one video game for my birthday and I just play that for 6 months and love it. And I wouldn't that game could have come out years ago. I didn't care. It's just this game that I've got in front of me and I'm playing it and it's fun.
Exactly. Yeah.
I want both of those things.
I actually don't want to have a situation where I only ever play good games. As stupid as that sounds, I think that playing games that aren't the best of the pack, to space things out actually helps you appreciate other ones more. And it's good to have that diversity. So yeah, I know that others will disagree, but and everybody's hobby in terms of this is going to be a bit different. But I really think that, I think this is an old Beavis and Butthead quote, actually. You can't have everything on the cool channel, sort of thing. You've got to have other places for this stuff to exist that, it allows you to truly, put the games that deserve it on a pedestal instead of everything being of the same level. And that might sound weird, but I enjoy, not actually having the highest level of quality at all times. I enjoy being critical of things. I enjoy that discussion that it generates and, some of the back and forth and debates that you can have about that kind of thing, because it's the activity surrounding the game that sometimes for me is as enjoyable as the game itself. So, if I don't find playing a game enjoyable, I'll find other ways to enjoy the game that maybe don't mean I'm actually playing it. I'm talking about it and doing other things with it. And my experience starts to transcend the actual behind the controls element of owning that game, if that makes sense. So, but I can't do those other things without it being informed, and to be informed, I actually need to experience it for myself, kind of thing. So, that's a weird roundabout way of looking at it, but that's kind of part of what I think of when it comes to
I agree. I agree with the optimism in that statement about, finding the good in the bad. But the point that I just flat out have to make is that fuck off paying $70 fucking for a game and then it being shit.
Yeah, that's fine.
I just have to say that. If I pay money for something, this is my wife knows this about me when we go out to eat in a restaurant. If I pay money for something, I expect every cent of the amount that I paid to be worth the end product. And if I don't get what I paid for, I send it back. If I don't get what I paid for, I return it or I complain. And that's just the way that I am. I suppose I deal in absolutes a lot, but for me, it's funny that we used the same analogy about going to a restaurant last week when we talked about it. But if I if I go to a restaurant and I get a meal and it's crap, well, sorry, I paid for that meal. You made an agreement with me that you were going to give me something worth this amount of money, and so if I pay a certain amount of money for a game, I expect it to be worth that amount of money. So, even if it then promotes healthy discussion afterwards, I worked for that money. I didn't, I remember Christian talking about, what was it we said years ago about this thing where you're renting your life or something, where it was about we go to work just so that we can spend that money on having a life or something. It was along those lines.
It's basically all jobs are selling parts of your life. You sell a chunk of your existence to a company to earn money.
There you go. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. So I've sold myself to my work to earn money to spend on a game that's shit. No, sorry, that's not what I like. Yeah. But I do agree with what you're saying, Luke. If I was sinking a little bit of money into a crap game, let's take our party game of the month, for example. That's an exercise where I'm happy to sink a little bit of money into a game that might be crap. Where I disagree is these big sort of AAA games that, cost way more.
And the way that you approached Anthem was exactly the right way for you, in that you went for the Origin Premier Access route, which was like $20 for that and a whole bunch of other games you could access, as opposed to paying for it outright. So, yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Now, I wanted to say, Luke, like, of course, I too totally agree with you, and I'm almost on the exact same wavelength as you in a lot of ways. Where I mean, I'm on this podcast talking about games. I'm not, or I could be playing them because I love the conversation. I love the meta of the gaming industry. But I still think there's problems with it, and like I was talking about how like just because a game's on an E3 stage doesn't mean it's any good, and that's part of it where like we give a pass or we hype up our expectations too much for a game just because it's new. Like, it's cool to be interested in new games, but like I think about last year's E3 on EA's stage, I think it was, they had A Quiet Man.
Oh, yeah.
Which yeah, and like people paid attention to that and went, oh, this is interesting. Oh, then maybe this looks cool. Like, and then, but that game was utter trash. Like, I'm sorry, developers, but that game was crap. And like, you didn't. Other games deserve those sales more, frankly.
Yeah.
But they got those sales just because of the hype machine.
Yeah, the big stage is a definite sort of marketing tool. They use it, sometimes for the right reasons and sometimes for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, I've spoken a little bit about hype before, but just to summarize my thoughts on hype in general, yes, I think it's destructive. Yes, I think it can be used for good or for ill. Yes, I'm an absolute willing victim of it because I find the whole process of being hyped up for something enjoyable in itself. And I know that is bad, and I know that is like having an unhealthy addiction. I have long since come to terms with it, and I enjoyed it so much that I kind of just accept it. So I am certainly not the example to be set.
I feel like we should be giving you a 30-day token or something.
Yeah,
there's an element of the hype machine I wanted to highlight too, and it's that like corporations, even game companies, aren't your friends, and a lot of like game companies, they try and sort of develop a rapport and sell things to you, but based on like their personality of their company, and like that's just something to be really wary of because it's all just marketing machines at work. Like companies aren't your friends, and don't buy something because you like have a positive relationship with the company unless it's based on your consumption of their products.
Yeah,
that's
Blizzard probably a great example of that in recent times. So people are now finally starting to question, those relationships and whether, it is the on the pedestal they had previously put it on kind of thing. But
and then one last thing this is going longer than I thought, but the topic of remakes came up with Link's Awakening, and I wanted to say too that remakes and ports, they get a lot of like sort of sneering sometimes and like, oh, this is just a remake. But I got to say bullshit to that, because the purpose of a remake is to expose the game to people who haven't played it before. Like Link's Awakening is 26 years old, the original. So hardly anybody really has. There are millions of gamers who've never played that. So it's as good as a new game to me. And I think that like it deserves as much attention and as much praise as a brand new game. Just because it's a remake doesn't devalue it to me.
Oh, I'm 100% on the same wavelength as you with remakes. Like, compare it to films that have been remade over a very short period of time. Actually, a great example is the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies. So I think that, you can leave the recent Tom Holland stuff aside because that fits into a different mold with the MCU links. I think that's a whole other thing. But remaking Spider-Man, like at the time that they did, for me, that's a much bigger problem than what we would describe with video games, because they're essentially saying, what came before, we think we can do it better. We'll just completely start it from scratch again, capture a new audience, yada, yada, yada. The big difference between movies and games is that games have an issue when it comes to compatibility of the time. Like, they're designed to work on a particular platform or console, and it's not always possible to go back and play a previous version of the game if you don't have the console that it was launched on or the means to do so. And in a lot of cases with remakes, it is about sort of making something that is no longer accessible again for people of the current age. But with movies, it's just purely to make money. Like, they would just release a new version of a movie, completely new cast, completely new story, like no other reason because they just want to put a fresh coat of paint on an IP and roll it out to make more money. With a game, I think it's more about actually taking something that was great and making it so that more people can enjoy it, like that otherwise couldn't. And I think there's a big difference there. So, yeah.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. All right. Well, that was a great topic, Christian. I think promoted some healthy discussion. Let's move on to Luke. So, Luke, what is your gaming reality check?
All right. So my reality check, there's a pretty common theme here, and that most of the stuff that I might rant about tonight, I end up being a huge hypocrite when I do it. But I'm going to do it anyway because
that's part of the joy. We're all hypocrites.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're all hypocrites together. It's the hypocrite club.
All right. So my one basically is simply put. Achievements and trophies are fucking bullshit, and they often make games worse by being in them. So,
interesting.
Yeah. So, like, I have a very, very firm belief that achievements and trophies can be an extremely negative factor when it comes to game design, in particular. So, I mean, just to sort of kick things off, we know we're talking about a pretty broad range of, design here when it comes to achievements. It depends on what platform you're on. Like Xbox obviously has their achievement system and their gamer scores. PlayStation have their trophies. And Steam has, a different brand of achievements, and you kind of get like your Steam levels and that sort of thing as well. Now, I think that there are examples of achievements in games done right, but I think that the overwhelming majority out there is of a whole bunch of this shit done wrong to the detriment of not only the gaming experience, but to make games often poorly designed because they take the easy way out and they band-aid bad design with the existence of achievements and trophies. So let me give you some examples of both ends of the spectrum. So to use the recent PS4 Marvel Spider-Man, okay? So
I was going to bring that up if you didn't.
Yeah. So, all right, I'm going to give you one example of really, really good game design that is achievement-like in structure, but not sort of strictly. I think it is linked to one of the trophies in this game, but it's not sort of representative of the entire game. So the backpacks in the Spider-Man PS4 game, I think the backpacks are an example of something done right because it is a little bit of a sort of fetch questy style sort of exploration thing, forcing you to sort of, go all around the city and look in different nooks and crannies that you wouldn't otherwise normally explore to find these collectible backpacks. But the way that they do it is they actually link in the existence of the backpacks to the narrative of the game. And every time you find a backpack and you open it up, you get a cool little bit of history from the time period of Peter Parker being Spider-Man prior to the game itself. Like you'll see trophies taken from previous enemies that he's beaten, or, photos from his time with Mary Jane, or, this, that, and the other that actually link to really cool sort of comic lore tie-ins. And I think that sort of thing is awesome because it's story-based and it actually is justified in the way that the backpacks are located, and the fact that he actually has so many of these backpacks strewn around the city is, believe it or not, actually explained at one point. I think they mention when you collect one of them that there's like a record there of him winning some sort of competition which gave him like a life supply of backpacks or something silly like that. It was really funny how they did it. So like that kind of thing I think is really cool because there's a good justification for it and there's a good reason to actually go exploring around the city as a result. Some examples where I think it's bad in the same game is things like the fucking pigeon challenge, where you have to run around and catch these stupid pigeons for this guy who's operating the small aviary on a roof. And the task of catching these pigeons is stupid. It's repetitive. It's like there's far too many of them. I can't remember if they're specifically linked to a trophy or not. I suspect they probably ultimately are because you need to complete like a whole bunch of side missions in the game to get one of the trophies and ultimately platinum the game. But the repetitive nature of it, the fact that it's very like disconnected from the narrative, it's not a fun activity to do. Like, this is an example to me of a quest involving poor game design, and people will complete it for the completionist's sake, but it certainly doesn't add anything to the game through its existence. And that's how I feel about a lot of trophies in different games. Like, trophies that involve you exploring the game world to find them and they're hidden in different locations. I think often they're pointless. There's no reason to do it. Like, a game designer should think of creative, like enticing ways to get you to new areas of the map rather than having been locked behind a trophy that exists outside of the gaming ecosystem itself. And it's just simply a box to tick to actually go around and explore these areas rather than because there's any compelling reason in game to do so. And, there are a lot of examples of games that are released like with trophy lists that are fucking ridiculous in nature and get you to do things in the game that are completely unfun and repetitive just so you can get trophies. Like ones that are random based, in particular, I think are massive offenders. Ones that you actually have to complete several playthroughs of the game in order to get, like, often are really bad as well, because there's no other thing compelling you to do a subsequent playthrough of the game because they haven't added significant new features other than like a second chance at getting a particular trophy. Like particularly games that have converging sort of paths where, you know, you actually literally can only get one trophy or the other, and going back and playing the game again to get the other trophy doesn't actually offer you any new experience other than nailing that second trophy, I think are fucking terrible, and like they're a bad band-aid for a developer trying to make a game more long-lived than it otherwise should be. So I think that there are just too many examples of achievements and trophies out there being bullshit. And there also needs to be a reality check in terms of what they actually mean to people. Nobody fucking cares about your high gamer score. Nobody cares about your EP in size due to having the biggest platinum level out of everybody on your friends list. You might think that people look at your profile and look at that stuff. They don't. They don't give a fucking shit. It's purely to stroke your own ego. That's all it is. You know, people do not give a flying fuck about the number of platinums you have. So that is my rant for tonight, and I will die on this hill. I think that it is absolutely pervasive and cancerous to an otherwise good game design experience. So yeah.
I love hearing negative Luke.
Yes, negative Luke is best.
It's fantastic.
Luke. Yeah. We need more angry,
I feel
yelling
like
negative
I've had
Luke.
a roll tonight.
How do you feel? Do you feel like a weight has been lifted off you?
Oh, look, speaking of weight, I had upper body day at the gym today, and I feel like this is all the testosterone bubbling to the surface. So there you go.
So I'll add my thoughts to trophies quickly, and I agree mostly with you, Luke. I think that I have like a general philosophy on trophies, which is at the very minimum, if I can't get your platinum trophy on one playthrough of your game, fuck you.
Yeah.
Like if your platinum trophy involves me missing things that I'll need to like start a new game or I'll need to play again on hard, count me out completely. But I do feel that if you're in an open world game, for example, like Spider-Man, I think it's okay to do everything, like do the entire open world. That's your platinum trophy. I think that's fine. If it's a different genre where it's like Uncharted, for example, where they've got these little artifacts hidden in corners, I think that the design of a single player narrative based game means like count me out. Like I don't want to have to like load up my chapters again and find each little artifact, because just the way the game's structured, I don't like that. But I do feel like in an open world game, having to do everything once, like including chasing those pigeons, I think that's okay for the trophy.
But my point is there should be an in-game hook for wanting to do that. It shouldn't be a checklist that exists outside of the game. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that checklist exists twice, right? The checklist exists in the game. Like the game has a tracker of how many of those missions you've done, and then it also factors into the trophy. So I think that there is a sense of completion you get from the game itself by doing that.
I think there needs to be a bigger incentive than just like a ticking up number. I think like if you complete a certain number of tasks or quests or exploration things in game, I think that actually needs to get you something in the game as opposed to.
Well, there is with the pigeons. You do get something.
Okay, so maybe that's not a perfect example because you do get something, but I think it needs to be something substantial and matching the effort is kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah. I also just wanted to say too, for the first, Spider-Man's a really interesting case because I can't remember any other game doing this. I got an email about 2 weeks ago saying,
yes, I got this
congratulations, congratulations for platinuming Spider-Man. Here's a PSN like profile picture or whatever. So actually giving like some tiny little reward for getting a trophy is something that I hadn't really seen much before. And I also want to give a shout out to Nier Automata for having a system where if you don't want to actually do the trophies, you can just buy them from an in-game vendor. You can just buy all the trophies. And it's like you might think that's dumb, that defeats the purpose. That's the entire point, is that it defeats the purpose.
Yeah, it's making a statement about it. Yeah.
Such commentary.
Yeah.
Such commentary, wow.
So meta. Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, I mean, my experience with trophies is thus. I have never, ever, ever platinumed anything because I don't care. And that's kind of where it ends.
Yeah. I think I only had 2 platinums, 2 or 3.
Yeah, I've never played a game with the point of getting all the achievements. The only one where I've tried to do that is Binding of Isaac, and that's only because the content of the game is locked behind achievements. And that's the kind of achievement hunting I enjoy. It's if it's going to give me, like you say, Luke, a tangible reward. But I don't mean a reward as in like a picture or a profile thing. I mean like something I can use in the game. Even Spider-Man costumes was borderline for me because although they give you an ability, it's still just kind of a costume. So for me, I just much prefer basically a gun. If I can do an achievement and I get a gun at the end of it, I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that's good. I think that's a good example of an achievement. But I mean, there are some games out there that would only ever be bought, like if PlayStation, for example, there are some games out there that are known easy platinums. And the only reason why people fucking buy them in the first place is because they want to get that platinum trophy with a minimum of effort. And I just say, no, do not reward these developers.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I think that there must be a disconnect in my brain, like compared to what you guys think about trophies. Because to me, if you unlock something for getting a trophy, then you're not unlocking it for getting a trophy. You're unlocking it for some in-game challenge. Like, and the trophy is a separate thing. Like, I think that anything that happens in the game is an in-game system, and trophies, by their nature, aren't part of the actual game. They're just like a secondary layer that's on top of the game where you can get a PlayStation trophy. But if you unlock something if you unlock an in-game reward, that's part of the game design, not the trophy design, to me.
I think the whole structure is iterative of like arcade days from when, we were much, much younger, or maybe when I was much, much younger, where you'd have your high score tables on arcade machines and people would come in and they'd see the people's initials next to the high score sort of chart and go, oh, this guy's really freaking good. A bit of notoriety sort of came with that. Oh, I'm LGM or whatever it happens to be. And those high scores at their sort of core back then were representative of progress in the game as a whole, because it was a very simple score metric of tracking how successful you'd been at that particular game. But in today's day and age, where every game has so many different facets that you can't necessarily track everything in such a granular fashion, instead we've got these trophy and achievement systems that do it in a new sort of era kind of way. And I just think that, over time it's evolved to the point where it can be a detriment to the experience as opposed to a positive in a lot of cases. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think if you're playing the game to get the achievements, but you're not having fun, then that's an absolute failure of the game, of the game design. But I also think, like, for me, I don't see trophies as anything like arcade high scores, because I've never cared about other people knowing if I've got a trophy. It's purely for me to put a bow on a game and to think, like, I like this game so much that I have put the time in to get the platinum trophy. It's literally like a trophy on my shelf in my room. Like, it's just for me. I don't give a crap what other people think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe if you actually got sent a real trophy, it might be more enticing. Like if you platinumed a game and then Sony sent you like a little keyring of a trophy, I might be more interested in that.
Sony actually did that there was something like there was like the top 1% of people or something on PlayStation. There was some criteria. They actually did get sent a real platinum trophy.
I'd settle.
Like a 1%.
I'd settle for a plastic one full of candy. That'd do me.
Yeah,
we can buy you one of those from Red Dot, Luke. Don't worry.
Mm-hmm. Nice,
cool. Oh, well, I think that sums up our gaming reality checks quite well. Unfortunately, Jam and Matt couldn't be with us, but I know that Matt did have quite a juicy topic of his own. So rather than spoiling it for our listeners, I think we might wait and maybe get Matt's topic back on another time and promote some more healthy discussion. But I must admit, my little niche in the podcast has been Mr. Negative and sort of, criticizing everything and being all cynical. I'm enjoying that. I'm sort of rubbing off on you guys a bit and getting you guys to sort of see things through the negative lens I see.
I would say it's a critical lens, not necessarily a negative lens. So
okay, fair enough.
You got to share the salt.
But yeah, that's right. Yeah, salty Adrian's what they call me, but not for the reasons you would think.
Oh God.
So yeah, thanks for engaging, guys. I really enjoyed that. So
good
I totally agree, Christian. Negative Luke is fantastic. I did quite enjoy that. So, yeah, awesome.
Nice.
It's like Dr. Hype and Mr. Negative, I think is Luke's 2 modes.
I'm doing the Harvey Dent of video games. Is that what you're getting at? Just
yeah, pretty much.
flipping it on and off. Yeah. All right. Well,
Two-Face.
anyway, I'm gonna psych myself up into hype mode because we're 30 minutes out from a Pokemon Direct. So fucking get it in me. All right. Anyway, so on that note, we should wrap things up. Thanks for listening. I hope you've enjoyed the show. If you've got any other gaming reality checks that you particularly feel strongly about, we would love to hear that stuff. So send it into our usual locations. Yes. Mail at partyloaded.com, Facebook just partyloaded, and Twitter at partyloadedshow. As per usual, you can check out all of our other stuff by going to our hub, which is channelendgame.com. And I want to just point particular attention at the moment to our Twitch channel, which is at twitch.tv/partyloaded, because we've ramped up our streaming schedule quite a bit, mostly due to Mr. Game Dad Matt deciding that he's going to stream 3 days a week on the regs. And he has been playing a bunch of OG Fallout this week. So I know that he's planning on doing a whole bunch more, and I'm going to jump on and do some stuff over the next week as well. So we're actually, out of nowhere, have a pretty solid little streaming schedule going. So not bad. Looking forward to keeping that up. And please jump on and check some of it out. That would be great. So yeah. All right. Well, anyway, let's leave it there. We can chat about more stuff next week. Next week, as a reminder, is our first episode of the new month, so it is our party game of the month episode, and we will be reviewing Oxenfree, which is a cool little, I guess, weird style narrative adventure that I'm very much looking forward to cracking into a bit more over the weekend. I have actually started playing it, so I'm going to be kicking on with that a bit more. And I will recommend to you guys, from what I've seen so far, I would recommend allowing some time for this one, more for digestion's sake than anything else. So there's my suggestion. Anyway, so yeah. Cool. Anything to close on? Rock and roll, Pokemon?
No, I anticipate I'll have finished Assassin's Creed by next week and we'll have played our party game, but probably nothing else. So.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah, I'm still plodding along in Warframe as per usual, but I encourage all our listeners to think negatively for the week. Think of something that makes you angry. Channel your rage.
Email us, not just if you have your own reality check, but if you hated ours and disagreed with us, and you have this burning vitriol in you about how wrong we were, let us know.
Yeah, and we'll slag you off on the next podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
In a constructive way.
I'm talking to you, James. Yeah, I just freaked out the one guy named James that listens to the podcast.
Nice. Sounds good. All right, James. Some dude named James is out of nowhere just going to stalk you on a street at some point in the next week. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Come at me, James. Yeah, fuck you.
All right. Well, to James and everybody else, thanks very much for listening. Good night.
Good night, James.
The Party Loaded podcast is a Channel Endgame production. For this and more great gaming content, bookmark channelendgame.com.